we talk about it a lot, like winning's fun. You have to do hard things to win.
Yeah.
And be successful. So it doesn't mean we're making it any easier for them. Mm-hmm. I think it's more challenging because we're asking them to do a lot of things well. It's not like, okay, you get to blow off your academics because we're just here to win championships. Like, no, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And that's just what it's going to take. Oh, and then in the meantime, I'd like you to have fun and figure out who you are as a human.
Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Project podcast brought to you by AMPLOS, a podcast where we like to bring sports psychology, performance psychology, and organizational psychology topics to the forefront and help our listeners be better and pursue better. Today, I am joined by a couple guests that I'm really excited to have on the podcast. Emily Navarro, who has been our summer intern with the AMPLOS team. She is also a rising senior at Furman University and plays for the volleyball team there.
Yes.
And then we also have her coach, Michelle Young, joining us today. So it should be a really interesting conversation. But Emily, please introduce yourself to our listeners, maybe tell a little bit about what your experience has been like this summer.
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name's Emily, as she mentioned. I'm a rising senior at Furman University. I play volleyball. I'm their setter. And I'm also majoring in psychology. I plan to go to grad school for IO psychology. So I've just kind of been here at AMPLOS, just kind of getting experience with IO psychology, sports psychology. So it's been really cool being here.
Yeah. We've loved having you.
Yeah.
And then Michelle, welcome. We just met a few months ago. Great introduction via Jeff Walker, who's here at the firm. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're looking forward to about being here today for the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Michelle Young, head coach at Furman. I have been there. This will be my 27th season. Yeah. It was my first head job and just kind of ended up staying there over the years. It's been great. I'm married to my husband, Will Young, is a high school football coach here locally. We have 3 children. 2 graduated from college and 1 will be a senior. So we're almost empty nesters there as well. But yeah, I am lucky enough to be Emily's coach, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say or grill me with. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool dynamic to have where it's coach and athlete here, and we'll get kind of both perspectives and see where the alignment is and maybe where there isn't alignment.
Yeah,
but hopefully the majority is aligned.
Yeah.
You guys are a pretty high performing team, so I think that we'll have some great conversations here. But I really want to start out, Michelle, and get to know you and your background a bit. What was your upbringing like, and how did sports really fit into that? Were you always, dead set on volleyball? What's that look like?
I'm from Minnesota originally. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a very small town called Chatfield, Minnesota, which is down in the corner. It's a rural community. My whole family still lives there, so I get back quite a bit. We grew up on a farm, a small family farm, and sports were just always in my life. Being active was always in my life. My mom was a 5th grade teacher. And then my dad worked on the farm, and then he had some, he drove truck for a while. He had some other jobs as well. But my mom was kind of the constant with her teaching job, and she also coached. So I grew up, she coached volleyball, she coached track. So I grew up just kind of, a feral kid running around the track and running around outside and being in the gym sometimes. But I grew up I wanted to do everything. Like every place we visited, everything we tried, I was like, I want to do this. I want to do that. I always, wanted to do everything. And so I think I got a lot of, different experiences. I'm obviously a little older than Emily. So my growing up, it was completely different as far as even like, yes, I played club volleyball and travel volleyball, but it was very much different than what we're doing today, obviously. I was able to play 3 different sports all through my high school career. I also did a little high school rodeo on the side. I was in 4-H. I was showing livestock. I mean, growing up, I got to do all kinds of different things. Yeah. And so that was always I really appreciate that now.
Right.
And so I think that is something that maybe I didn't appreciate at the time. I just got to do it and I loved it and it was great. I don't think I was never planning to probably play volleyball or coach just volleyball growing up.
Really?
I really liked basketball was kind of my first love. Volleyball I found very frustrating at first because we couldn't do anything. Like I would just stand back and serve 15 points or whatever it was at the time. We'd serve about, it just wasn't, I didn't feel like you could get to as high of a level with it. And then as I got older, I realized, wow, this game gets faster. It's really fun. This is probably where I could go to the highest level. I loved track and field as well. That was just a nice break I went from team sport to team sport, and then finally getting to an individual sport was a nice break. So all my siblings were in sports. We were very competitive. We raced, we were racing all the time. We were playing basketball in the driveway all the time. So yes, I think it was constant in my childhood, and I always had that dream of getting a scholarship, and that was how I was going to get to go to college, and I wanted to do that. And so volleyball provided me with that opportunity. And yeah, it was great. It was miserable at first, and then it was great.
Miserable at first,
yeah,
and
then it was great. And so, I just have been very lucky to have one of those great childhoods.
Yeah.
And I'm very close with my family still, and so it's been. I really appreciate what I got to do growing up.
Yeah, it sounds like you not only had so many experiences, but then the support system there. It sounds like you and your siblings were pretty competitive, at least when you were younger. So here is my question: Who ended up being the best athlete in the family?
I mean, obviously me.
Obvious.
It worked really well because we kind of all had our own thing.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of jokes about, who had the best, whatever, and this, that, and the other. And so we still have a pretty healthy relationship with it. And all of our kids are, involved in all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what's been kind of great is it's not just like this one path where we're all this sport.
Yeah.
We're kind of all over the place. And now nieces and nephews are like, I don't know if any of them do the same sport. So we're everywhere from snowmobile racing to girls wrestling to swimming to all, we've got everything covered, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun getting to support them as they grow up and stuff. So it's been lots of fun.
It's very cool. Like you said, I can tell not only do you like a fast pace, but you also like variety. And that's kind of sounds like it's showing up for you, which is great. Now, you did eventually decide, like you said, to take volleyball quite seriously. You ended up going and playing in college, and that was kind of your ticket for college. So talk to us about your collegiate career. It was quite impressive. Emily and I were talking about this morning beforehand, that you hold some of the highest single season in career assist marks at Clemson.
Not still.
Not still. She said some of the highest.
I don't think so.
She did clarify. She was like, it's not the highest anymore, but it was for a while.
Yeah.
It was for a while.
Okay, well, that's good. But I left at the time, there just wasn't a lot of kids leaving our community to go off and, play a sport and that kind of thing. So it was a really cool opportunity for me to go and do that. And it was kind of unique at the time. And so I was very homesick. I mean, my freshman year, I think, everyone goes through those adjustments of you go from being like kind of the star, if you're going off to play in college, you were probably, one of the better players or very successful. That's why you got there. And so having to make that adjustment was a little challenging for me. I'm sure I was a big old baby because I thought I knew what I was doing, and I found out quickly that I did not. And so my freshman year was very challenging. That a lot of just calling my parents and I'm coming home. And luckily my parents were like, no, you're not. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't I had a ton of support, but it was not like They did not micromanage us. They really barely knew what we were doing, probably a lot of the time, which was fine. But I'm really glad that my mom was like, no, you're not. This is your opportunity. You're going to work harder. You're going to do what your coach says, and you're going to figure it out. And then I was like, no, I'm not. So that whole first semester was really a very miserable time. And it was not because my coaches were miserable, my teammates were miserable. That's what I was deciding to do with it. Right. I was deciding to be a big baby about it. Then I kind of turned a corner, started to get, settled in a little bit more, went home, realized, okay, everybody's fine here. It's going to be okay. And then I really kind of turned a corner and started to just figure things out and started to have some more success and have a better attitude about things as far as and then realize like my family's still there. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. So it was a pretty big swing for me.
Emily, how is that hitting home for you? I know you and I have talked a little bit about your experience in the world of being a collegiate athlete, but also being far from home. Kind of hearing your coach talk about that. What is that like for you? What's it bringing up?
Well, I'm like shocked because like that's exactly like what happened to me. Like I begged my mom. I was like, Mom, like I really want to come home because like coming in here, like I'm not used to just being in South Carolina either, just leaving home, and I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I just knew I wanted to play volleyball and play good volleyball, and like Furman gave me that opportunity. But then coming in, I was like, man, I miss my family. I became really homesick. So I also had a similar experience where freshman year was like really hard for me, just like kind of getting settled in and just like adjusted to like also just being a student athlete, like a D1 student athlete, having to wake up early and having to just manage like school and athletics. It was like really hard for me at first, but definitely like moving forward, like coming into sophomore year and then now junior and then now I'm going to become a rising senior, I've definitely become way more settled and like acclimated into like this whole environment. So freshman year was definitely the same experience that I had as well.
Yeah. And you can't, it's hard to get yourself out of it.
Yeah, it is.
Everything's going to be fine, but you're just it is interesting to be when you're that sad and you feel like you just cannot get over the hump, and then you kind of magically do with time and figuring some things out a little bit. But and I can attest, I was a lot like Emily, where you're getting your opportunities, and not to diminish your volleyball career because you've had a great one. Most of your you heard a lot, you're really athletic, you're fast, it wasn't like, oh, you are a technically super sound dialed in, so it was a little bit similar. Maybe that's why I really liked Emily in the recruiting process. They were telling me things where I was like, it's the first time I'd heard that, and because again, coming from we weren't in like, Chicago or whatever that had all this high level play. So we were just kind of winging it, and I think I could relate a lot to when I'm telling her like, okay, we need you to face this way and do these things every time. It's like, why? What I'm doing is working. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I can relate a lot to that. And it is just when you just feel like you can't be successful anywhere and you're sad and you're, the best. I think my favorite place, which is usually the least favorite place for people, was the weight room. It's like, can we just go lift heavy things? Because I can do that, And so there was so much, that was like the one place I could find some success and not be quite so, and yours would probably be like, we're just going to run and move and do things.
Yeah,
you can do that all day long.
Yeah, anything with running, like I'm there.
Like anything with running.
Yeah. So.
Well, it is interesting because it is like that technical aspect of when you go and play at a next level. Yeah. Like refining those things that maybe you thought you had down. Yeah. And that becomes a challenge and requires, we talk about it all the time, a certain level of a growth mindset of, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Yeah. And I don't want that to hold me back. I want it to be my motivation to propel me forward. But when I was working in collegiate athletics, in the teams that I worked with, I worked with a tennis team for quite a while, and a lot of those athletes came from overseas. And freshmen, I cannot tell you how the majority of the work I did was not about improving their mental game on the court. It was about adjustment, like that transition to college life, to being away from home, to having to take ownership completely of waking up, holding yourself accountable to workouts, eating right. Like there is so much that happens in that first year that can really make or break an athlete. So it's cool to hear that you guys both had that and then obviously overcame it. So Michelle, thinking back on your time at Clemson, what's a moment or a game or something that really shaped who you are today?
Gosh, it was a long time ago, Gabby. I don't know. I think it was just turning the corner finally.
Yeah.
Of just not being quite so consumed with missing people or being in, because again, at least you got to come to Greenville. Like Clemson, it was like, I don't even understand what is coming out of it. I didn't understand what he was saying, in the beginning, and it was just such a culture shock. So I feel like Greenville had a few more transplants in it at the time, but I just feel like there was like, once I got that, I'm sure like we had a senior in front of me who was great, and she ended up graduating. So maybe it was just even getting an opportunity where, okay, now I do get a little bit more time just by default because she's graduating. And luckily she stayed to be a coach, and she was, really got me through a lot of things because we had that relationship and was helpful. But I do think, there's probably an opportunity opened up. That it was kind of like I just had survived and that opportunity presented itself, but then I had to do something with it. So I'm sure, I think playing time solves a lot for young athletes, obviously, just like winning does. But I think I had hung in there long enough to just to get around the corner of all of it. And then just branching out and meeting some people and realizing it's going to be okay. I don't know if it was necessarily a game.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot, but I probably can't remember them correctly. And it's, probably, reminiscent, what is it? The older you are, the better you were. So I think it was just a general shift.
Yeah.
And I just started to figure some things out and get a little more comfortable. Yeah. And I don't know, I just kind of stuck to it, I guess, a little bit. I did need to be like you called your parents.
Yeah, all the time.
And I do think that is a big turning point. And I don't want to do that. My mom said that was probably one of the hardest. Every time I called, she's like, oh gosh, here we go. But she stuck to her guns. And I think it is something like, there's a whole back against your wall kind of deal too. Like, that was my opportunity. And I did not want to blow it. And my mom didn't want me to blow it. And I think they had enough tough love. Again, and somehow it worked out. Like that can happen and it can backfire. But for some reason, I trusted their opinion. I knew it was my opportunity, and I stuck to it and got around the corner of it. So I don't know, like your life could be totally different if your mom was like, yes, come home.
Oh, 1,000%.
We'll do everything for you and it'll be great. I think like that is as hard as that decision has to be for parents. Because again, it could have backfired. But luckily, I think for you, you had a great growth period. I'm so glad you didn't. And I'm so glad your parents.
Yeah,
I'm sure your mom might have been a little more. Maybe your dad is like, no way. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, my mom too, but like my dad was worse for sure. He's like, you don't have a home to go to, so
right. So I mean, I know
our door is closed.
Our door is closed. That's kind of how my family was. And so, but again, like at the time, it was like, how dare you? And now I'm like, thank goodness,
right?
Because my family, we're still very close. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
There are times where you're always going to, miss people and that kind of thing. But
right.
I think you would probably agree. Yeah. Thank goodness we didn't weenie out and, go back and, because we probably would have been like, let me go back. So once you get close.
I'm very thankful for the experience and that I stayed and that my parents didn't just succumb to my own cries.
Right. It is hard though, even now as a parent, you don't know, am I making the right choice?
Right.
So I can't imagine how hard that was, but I always tell them I really do appreciate it that they, pushed me through that moment.
I want to jump into your coaching career now.
Okay.
Something I did not know until this morning was that you actually became the head coach at Furman when you were just 23 years old.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
I mean, and Emily was telling me that at 22 you were the assistant coach, and then the next year you're now head coach.
Yeah.
Two questions. What was going through your mind? And also, how did this even come about?
At the time, my husband was a GA at Clemson. And so we were kind of trying to stay in that area. I had taught for 1 year and hated it. I am not a be here, you have to sit here till this time person. I like to just, I'm kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I always thought I would teach and coach like my mom did. And I was going to coach all the sports, like not just volleyball. And so I didn't really enjoy teaching. Again, but this time I was like, I'm cutting the cord. It wasn't, and I talked to my husband at the time. We had just gotten married. And I was like, can I please, try something different? And so he was doing his thing and he's like, whatever, but there were bills that had to be paid. So I was like, I will get a side job if I need it, whatever.
Right.
So I had gotten hired at Furman as the assistant, which wasn't a full-time job at the time. But I really wanted that opportunity and I thought it'd be great. And I actually talked to my head coach because I was only a year out of college, and she had kind of called me about it and said, hey, they're looking for an assistant. And I talked to her and she was like, yeah, go for it. Like if you can get it, it's a good foot in the door. So I was actually my first year, I was coaching. And I was like, got a side, you might not know this, a side job. I was working in the garden department at the Easley Lowe's. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was my big career shift.
Wow.
I just wanted to do this job.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I needed to supplement my income a little. We had to make it work.
Yeah.
And we were young. We didn't have kids yet. We weren't making really any money. And so we just had to put everything together.
Right.
But so in the spring of I was the assistant. So I would go to morning workouts. And then I'd go teach. Then I would coach, and then I would come kind of do some recruiting at night a little bit. And I did that for like a semester, just kind of all the time. And then the summer I started working at Lowe's too on the side. So till my teaching, because I had to finish my year teaching. And so, and then that summer I did that. And then I didn't really have to do that as much anymore. And so I was only assistant for 10 months. We were together, that coach that hired me. And then he got a great opportunity back at the school that he had come from.
Yeah.
And so he went back up there. And he had only been gone for like a year. So he was able to kind of jump back up there and pick up that. And I was married and he was doing his thing. So I wasn't like I was looking to leave or anything.
Yeah.
And the timing worked, right place, right time, probably overconfident and unaware. That was probably my attitude. And again, the same thing, like I liked what I was doing and it was really fun and the opportunity was there. And I just think, for what it was probably a convenient hire for them. And lucky me, I happened to be there. And then again, I think I tried to make the most out of it, and obviously staying here, like I didn't blow it. You know what I mean? Kind of deal. But yeah, I do feel like even at a young age with no experience, I just really felt like I could do it for some reason. I was probably more confident then in it than I am now after all this time. I feel like, you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And so you're just young and going with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to, in that opportunities present themselves, and we say this all the time. You have an option. You can either take it on, approach it with that growth mentality of, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I'm gonna try my best. Or you can shy away from it, and I love to hear that you did the first, and that you really embraced that challenge. And some of it was like, maybe at the time I didn't quite realize how crazy that was, right? Yeah. I mean, can you think now, let's say, Emily, for example, next year or 2 years from now, she's head coach at.
Can you imagine? I mean, it's insane. So it's funny. We had camp, and some of the, I've been there long enough now that some of my players' children are coming to camp. And we had a dinner with three alums. Two of them were the very first class of me. I was an assistant when they came, reported. And I was like, we're basically the same age. It's so funny because you don't think of it that way. But I mean, I laughed so hard. We had so much fun. And it was just so great thinking about because even the person that hired me, he was also young at the time. And together we were just two young coaches, not knowing what they're doing. And so we were just laughing about it. And it was so great to still be connected with that group. And the memories and just realizing, oh my gosh, we're almost the same age. What was happening? So a very different coach through the years to, so there's so many things they'd bring up. I was like, I don't even remember that. I probably blacked some of that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, that begs the question, like, how has your coaching philosophy changed from when you were, a starting head coach at 23 years old to now?
Oh,
What
I am
kind of
sure my hair.
evolutions has it gone through?
I'm sure my hair was on fire when I'm just ready to just run people and do stuff. And So, and tons of energy, and so I think that it has changed. I think I've probably got a lot more perspective. I think we handle young athletes a little different now too. So, I'm hoping that I grew. And that I am a better coach now than I was then. I think having children changed my perspective quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think when you're young and sometimes you don't have kids and you're not seeing it from a parent's perspective, it can be a little bit different. I just feel like being there that long. The only thing that is tough is, the mistakes you made and you're still, like you can see them now. Or you're like, I probably didn't handle that situation great, or I wish I would have done that better. And I feel like sometimes when you're at you go from like school to school, like a lot of coaches do, you can make those adjustments and have a fresh start. Yeah. Where I feel like being at one school the whole time, you kind of are stuck a little bit with those. Then you got to work through them, and then you got to, embrace your mistakes a little bit more and feel like, okay, we did do it this way, but now we're doing it that way or something. So it's also a great thing it has its pros and cons of being at the same place for so long.
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is like the turnover within collegiate athletics coaching is extremely high.
It's bananas, yeah.
And so these days, having a coach who's been basically their entire career with the same school and the same team, like that does require adaptability. It requires the perspective that you're talking about, like the allowing yourself to change your approach to coaching over time and not run away from the mistakes you've made. I think in this day and age, and I'm sure you can attest, like especially with NIL, like now this is kind of spreading to the athlete side as well, right? Like, oh, well, I don't like my coach, or I don't like this team, or I'm not getting enough playing time, so I'm going to look for something else rather than face the challenge head on. Yeah. And it's the same thing with coaching, right? Like, I don't like this athletic department. I don't like, XYZ, so I'm going to keep my door open for other possibilities. Yeah. I just think it's a unique perspective to have on the podcast with somebody who's had that longevity. I always am curious, what was your vision at 23 coming in?
I don't. I'm not sure I had much vision to make it to the next job. Keep the job. Don't screw this up. No, I think it was a lot of, I do remember it being fun, like it was it was fun because it was competitive. You're still someone who could get in there and play and mix it up in practice if you needed to. Yeah. So you were getting that outlet of still kind of being an athlete. Yeah. But I just think that it really was like, this is a great opportunity. Yeah. I think you're there. I'm sure there was some winging it a little bit because of learning some of these things. And so I just don't know if I actually had a huge vision. But I do know it was like, I want to help these girls get better. I want to help them win. We want to win. It was a lot of probably winning. Yeah. And trying to, get your first win your first champion, like you're trying to do all these firsts. Mm-hmm. So I think it is just, the vision is that, like, how do we get some, more people in here that can help us win, and how do we train so we can win, and because that's really, like, at that point in my career, I'm certain that's what I was judging my success on. Oh yeah. Like 100% was like wins and losses. Right. So that's probably what my vision was, get more wins. Yeah. How do I get more wins?
And we were just, we were having a group we spoke with yesterday, and we were talking about learning environments and performance learning environments versus mastery environments. And, it's performance environments are exactly what you're talking about. It's, hey, we want the wins. Like, this is the standard we're held to. And as an early professional in your career, like, you do have standards you have to meet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if I don't have a winning record, I'm probably out the door sooner rather than later. So that is at the forefront. But I would say, and just through conversations we've had, you definitely have shifted into more of this mastery environment. You're creating that for your athletes of how do I help my athletes be better? How do I help them not only be better athletes, but better people, and just learn and grow? So at what point do you feel like that shift started to happen for you in your career?
I think, the longer you do it, the older you start to figure some things out. I think it was a mix of, like I mentioned earlier, like having my own kids
Right.
a little bit. But honestly, it wasn't until they got a little older. When they're little and running around, it still didn't kind of click necessarily. But I do think that there were some really good teams that, due to uncontrollable circumstances, didn't necessarily win a championship, or, like these things come up that are out of your control,
Right.
that can really just take a season away from you or whatever. I think I started to figure out this is a more of a long-term thing, and how can it not become just about wins and losses, because these guys are going to leave here and they're not going to be able to play pro or do all these things. And how do we send them out into the world, like, ready to dominate? And I think it was kind of a slow shift. And I think as of late, and maybe it is because I am getting older, like, what kind of impact do we want this program to have on our athletes? How can we set ourselves apart a little bit? Yeah. And I do think it's because the landscape of levels of schools and sports, and even within the Division I level, there's so many, especially in volleyball. I mean, there's so many levels within Division I.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what are the benefits of, going to a school the size, the style, it's Division I of a Furman? What type of athletes are we attracting? And then how do we provide what they're really looking for? And I just think over the years, I just kind of started to realize what is special about that place. I wouldn't have gotten into a Furman. I wouldn't have taken advantage, probably, because my perspective was very different going in when I was an athlete. But then I see these young ladies. I mean, you've met Emily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do I push these guys in some other areas and give them the confidence to go out? Because I do think we have some girls that are athletes. They're so smart. They're so personable. They work their butt off. Like, they are what the world needs. You know what I mean? And so how do we help prepare them in maybe some deficiencies, or open their eyes to some other things, as well as pushing them on the court? Because we talk about it a lot, like, winning's fun. You have to do hard things to win.
Yeah.
And be successful. So it doesn't mean we're making it any easier for them. I think it's more challenging because we're asking them to do a lot of things well. It's not like, okay, you get to blow off your academics because we're just here to win championships. Like, no, you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do this. And that's just what it's going to take. Oh, and then in the meantime, I'd like you to have fun and figure out who you are as a human. So I just think it is, it's very challenging in other ways as well, where you could go to a program and it is like, it is only one thing, but it's not any easier because that one thing is consuming you, and it can be even more stressful, and it can be hard in a different way. So I think there's so many ways to go about it that you really got to figure out, okay, what's going to benefit our athletes at this place, at this point in their life, at the level we're able to be competitive at, and trying to keep your focus on that, because there are so many distractions and so many things going on in the college athlete landscape.
Yeah, a lot going on. Emily, you've experienced this firsthand, and I'd be curious to hear from you, development wise, like, what have you really valued about Furman, and about your relationship with the volleyball team and your coach? Like, how has it supported your development, not just as an athlete, but holistically, as Michelle's kind of referencing?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I feel like I'm a completely different person than who I was freshman year. Coach has actually instilled in me, like, a lot of things I need, like skills I need, not only just like as an athlete, but I feel like in the workplace that I've been able to apply, like this summer. One that really stands out to me is my time management skills. As a freshman, being a setter, you're a leader, and whether you like it or not. And I found out that being early is like being like an hour to like a place, and then being like on time means being 15 minutes like before like the time actually starts, and then being late is like if you get there like 3 minutes or on the time you're supposed to be there, that's late.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would sometimes, because I also was hurt, but like that's not an excuse, I would sometimes be one of the last ones showing up on the court, like for practice and stuff. And something that really like stood out to me was in our individual meetings, coach was kind of telling me like, you are a leader and you're one of the last ones to like step on the court. Like you need to be like on time. So like coming into spring season, I believe it was like sophomore year or something. Coming into spring season, I made like my ultimate goal. Of course, I wanted to work hard and just like be better like with my technical skills, but like also off the court, I made it my goal to like be one of the first ones there, so I wouldn't hear it from coach. So
you were never late. You were always just technically the last person there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like always the last person there, but I was never late.
No, you were never late. I will give you that. You were never late. It was just, and your ability to just snap on.
Yeah.
You know, that is, because you're like, well, why would I get there when I can just start? You know, and so I do understand that. Yeah. But it was, and I think I will give Emily credit. She fixed it and did great. You know, she really responded to what I challenged her to do, and she's been doing great.
Yeah, like now I'm like, I would say I'm one of the first ones like there on the court or like in the gym in general. Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, maybe I would see you'd beat me sometimes, but like I feel like I would always like try to be there first. So like just like skills like that, I feel like coach has really helped like instill in me. Yeah. I mean, also other things I could really like look back in like different moments. There was one other moment where I felt like just a lot of leadership skills you've instilled in me. Like also just being loud on the court and being able to like demand and stuff and be assertive. I feel like as a freshman, so we didn't have a great practice. Like, and you know, coach was giving it to us, and and I remember you looked at me and you were like, "You're the quarterback on the team, and you're the quietest one on the court." And but I really appreciated that. Like, I still remember it to this day because that made me reflect on like who I wanted to be, like as a setter, because I feel like leadership can look so many different ways. Like it doesn't have to be the most aggressive. Like you could also be the controlled and calm one. And I really reflected on like who I wanted to be. And I just realized since like hard work has always been like my number one primary thing that I always like want to be consistent with, I just made sure that I would instill that with my teammates in terms of just like being energetic or cheering, sometimes a little too loud, I feel like, just like going, yeah.
It's just your scream. You got one scream.
My scream. I have that one scream where I need everyone. But yeah, I just feel like just skills like that, she's really helped instill in me, and that has helped me like put it on to like the workplace, just being here on time, like being like assertive in what I'm saying, being confident, as also just being a leader on the court, but also just trying to bring that into the workplace. All of that has really helped me with my personal development. So
I would echo it because, you know, one thing that I really pride myself on is punctuality. Like I am always on time. I'm 9 times out of 10 early, right, to anything. And at Elliott Davis, you know, we have this EVP that works for you, right? So it's, so we operate within like 8 to 5, but there's some flexibility within that, right? Me, I'm always here right at 8, 7:55. Like I'm here. I get here 7:55. Emily's already here.
Yeah.
She's beat me to her desk. She's set up. She's ready to go. I'm like, hey. It does transfer, and that's what's so cool to hear. Is like it was something that came to awareness through your sport, but then you've grown in that capacity, and it's carried over into life. And we try to preach that in the work that we do in sports psychology, and that yes, we're teaching you mental skills to help you perform better in sport, but it's also to help you perform better in life, right? Like these skills carry over. So I've absolutely seen that. And then, you know, I wasn't there, but I know Milt talked about when you went to his in-person event with a company he was doing a leadership training with, and he threw Emily into the discussion with one of the groups, the roundtable discussions, and she was sitting there right next to the CEO, like asking him questions and talking to him, just really embracing that ability to get to know people and put yourself in uncomfortable positions and speak up. So we've seen it transfer for sure, and I think that's just such a testament to you, but also to the work that's being done behind the scenes on the coaching front.
Yeah.
So, like I said, been a really impactful experience for us to see.
Just for the record, though, I'm not on time all the time. My family would be like, and yeah, luckily my husband's very punctual, but in
gotta have both.
in my leisure life, I'm like, where are we going to be? When? So I really can turn it off too. So.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't turned it off.
Good, don't. Yeah.
Now I'm just on time to everything.
See, no, my family would be happy to reflect on how I'm not on time everywhere.
So I know we're coming up on time here. I want to really do a little bit of future focus. I've got coach and athlete here. What are you guys hoping for this season?
Emily, go ahead. See, there's some killer in there. She's a real, she's being professional, but don't mistake her kindness for weakness or anything like
never.
that.
But no, it's just that it's also like my senior year. So, and basically all our starters are coming back. Mm-hmm. It's a really great team, and we were second to the seed like last season, and I feel like now we have you, AMPLOS. We're partnering with AMPLOS, the mental game. So I really am excited for this season. I just pray that we all just, dominate and hopefully win a SoCon championship, because that's the goal, and that's what I really want. Also, just coming out of my senior year as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. We've been training already too. We have some fun practices, just team practices for fun. Yeah. Me and my teammates, we've been getting some reps in there. So I'm hoping that everyone's ready to dominate this year.
Yeah, I think the difference with this group is kind of trying to get them to, be careful with the we return everybody vibe, because that's just not a guarantee. That has nothing to do with anything. I think, yes, it is a fact. We return a lot of people. I think the important thing is that I think there's been a shift in the mood of the team. They're probably as organized on their own as far as we can't work with them in the summer, but they can play on their own, and they can train with our strength coaches, and they've gotten more organized on their own. They've been more driven on their own when they are together. The vibe is just different when they are playing in there. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for them. I think my job will really be you can't just return everybody and do the same things, what are you really willing to do, and how hard are you willing to train, and how are you willing to change some of your behaviors to put you in the best possible position to be successful. It's not just, how a lot of times it is we were good last year, we're going to be better this year. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't compute. And so it really is the question is going to be, are you going to be willing to do our deficiencies better and work on them? Are you going to be willing to, get along? Are you going to be willing to, all those things, which I think, we have so many athletes coming back. Again, Emily mentioned it, taking it, we were how can we push these guys? How can we make them better? There's just some deficiencies that we do have, and talking with, just somehow getting connected with you guys again. And I think it does come down to, if an opportunity presents itself, what are you going to do with it? And I think an opportunity to work with you and AMPLOS came, and we jumped on it and we found how do we make it work? And we were able to make it work. And I think that, the girls, same thing. We had the first meeting. What are they going to do? They didn't all just sit there. I think they dove right in. And so I think that is what I'm really excited about this group for, is they have been diving in. They're not, we talk a lot about in the past, we'd love to dip our toe in the water and, okay, are we going to be good today? And it's that's just not how it works. You're going to have to commit. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. And so I think not only we've done a lot of things, but I can't give this group enough credit for, I do think they're actively approaching some things differently, and they're, it's not a guarantee, but I do think they're doing some things differently that give them a better opportunity for a good season. And so, I do really appreciate that they're doing that.
We always say
they're different.
I also just wanted to add, I just feel there's a sting from last season. We had a great season, I feel but there was also some moments where we definitely could have done better. There's one game that was actually on my birthday that I'll never forget that I don't even want to mention right now, but it was pretty bad. But
Yes.
yeah, I just think there's like a sting that I think we just want to really get in there and showcase what we really have and just leave it all out there and not be afraid to do so, because I think fear sometimes could hold us back as well. I think that's kind of what happened in the SoCon tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, Wofford, like, I don't know if I can mention this, but like, even like with Wofford, I just feel like
You're mentioning Wofford because we played them.
yeah,
That's why.
Wofford now being like 3-time champs, I feel like they also didn't have like that pressure, like that mental aspect of the game that we had, whereas like we didn't win a championship last year. Like we do have something to lose. We had a great season. We do have something to lose. I think that mental game kind of got to us. So I would really love to like push past that and really just dominate on the court and not let the whole like mental side of it really affect us on the court. But I just wanted to mention that because I felt like that was something that really did help them win again.
That's a great point. I think that fear, the pressure is something we talk about all the time. But one thing that's standing out to me is the mentality around when you're at the top of your game, change your game. And the premise behind that is like when things are going well, when we have a team full of returners and we've got a lot of strengths, what are we going to do differently to continue growing? Because it's not we just show up, do exactly what we did last year and expect a different outcome. We do still have to make changes. We do still have to, push ourselves, continue growing in ways that maybe we were scared to do the year before. So every team, every season has its own unique challenges, and I'm excited to jump into the preparation side of that with you all and be a partner in that process. Any final thoughts from you, Michelle, or Emily? Anything you wanted to add before we wrap up today?
Thanks for being a great coach, Coach.
Yes, thank you,
She's a
Emily.
great coach. She's a great coach. No, I actually do want to mention something. I just feel like I have dealt with, like, I've played for 9 years, so I've dealt with, like, a lot of, like, coaches, like, that are passive. I feel like more on the chill side, don't really, like, let you play, and I'm not going to name, but, and then also overly demanding coaches that are just, like, you kind of dread the next time you're going to step on the court. And I just feel like you do fall in the middle variation where I actually, like, you insert the right amount of discipline, but, like, you also, like, kind of know when to dial it back and, like, speak to me. I just remember one time, like, I had a really rough week and it was just, like, 3 exams, didn't do well in the first one. And then also I just wasn't playing good volleyball. And coach, like, even though she was, like, still coaching me during practice, after you came up to me and you're like what's wrong? And I'll never forget that because it really like made me realize that you care for me, like not only as an athlete but also just as a person. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. You're a great coach and you've really helped me.
Well, thanks, Em. You're a great athlete.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun, and I do think she has grown a lot. So I think that's probably I think a lot of people ask why I'm still doing it or why I'm still at Furman or whatever. I do think at Furman we're allowed to have the relationship of just like people do stay. They're not coming and going all the time. We have a good foundation of kids. I think, I think we try to instill that trust. That now there are times when I do, get frustrated and, quote unquote, lose it. But I think that, we want to try to, and I haven't done it with every single athlete, I haven't nailed every single moment. But I do think if there's an opportunity to build that relationship, you're going to be able to push them a little bit more and get a little bit more growth out of them in the end. And I do think Emily's allowed that. Some athletes really like that's a tough egg to crack, and I'm never going to get to know that person. And I do think that it needs to go both ways. I'm not perfect. Emily's not perfect. We're going to have bad conversations too. But I think if you can keep trying, but I think it's a big responsibility for the athletes too. They have to want to grow and they have to want to do some things. And so I've been really happy with this group because I don't think it's been perfect. We've had some big setbacks, letdowns, challenges. We've had some great moments, but I do think after 4 years of it, she's had a lot of ups and downs. I feel like she's playing her best ball, and she's as committed as she's ever been. And I think that's the nice thing with this group that's returning. They're as committed as they've ever been.
Right.
And that's why we're going to be successful. Yeah. Win or lose a championship, whatever, this group's going to find success because I think they're as motivated and as dedicated as they were, have ever been. And I think that's hard when you return that many people. They usually are like real chill and, oh, we got it. And I just I do think there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, which helps motivate as well. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that can go right, that can go wrong, and just trying to work through all of that and build the relationships with the athletes. Some, like I said, are harder than others, but you still got to try and see how you can help them grow, I guess. But I was listening to a podcast of this from AMPLOS, and I think Drew Brannon had said, what got you here won't get you there. Mm-hmm. And I literally stopped my car and wrote it down because I feel like that will be our mantra because it's just, that is a real pitfall of returning a lot of athletes. Yeah. It's like, okay, we had one of our best years and we're all returning. This is just automatically going to be a better year. Right. And that's just not, and I think they understand that, which is exciting.
Well, we're going to put that on a banner in the locker room.
Slap it on a banner and put it up there. Hey. But it's so funny. And I do think, things get put in front of you. Yeah. And sometimes you miss them, and sometimes you grab on and take advantage of it. And I was meant to be listening to that right there. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. Our team. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Little moments like that. So.
Well, I'm sure from the conversations we've had today, there's somebody listening who will say the exact same thing about some of the advice we've heard from both you and Emily. And, I hope our listeners stay tuned in to Furman Volleyball this season and see all the great things that are going to be accomplished. But thank you both for taking the time to be on the podcast, and I'm just excited to see what's in store for us down the road.
Really excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, it should be fun. I hope we get lots of people out watching this fall. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, everybody come out to Furman.
New arena.
So playing in the big arena. Come see it. Yeah.